Hello and welcome to our Tasmanian Devils online forum. We've been doing a lot of community events around Tasmania of late, making sure that the club is engaging with communities. We've been to Queenstown and Scottsdale and Huonville and Deloraine. Our online community, though, is a very important one that we want to connect with as well. So thank you for your attendance today. 207,000 members, 55 countries, 100,000 members in Tasmania. So wherever you are, a welcome to you, and you'll find out a bit more about what the club is doing at the moment. Hear a bit more about Brendon Gale, a key appointment for the Tasmania Devils as they build into the future. And there's a lot of work to be done, so Brendon can update you on what's happening. Your questions are welcome. We've had plenty come in on social media. We'll get through a few of those as we go as well. But firstly, I'd like to welcome Brendon Gale, the CEO of the Tasmania Devils. Brendon.
Thanks, Al. Great to be with you. We've spent a lot of time together, haven't we? Covered some miles, been all over the state, learned a hell of a lot. It's been a real privilege. Loved it.
Yeah, I've loved every second of it too, because we've been into the regions and places that you probably haven't been for quite some time. You left Tassie when you were 19 to go and play football for Richmond, where you had a great career and then a great administrative career as well. But 37 years since you've been living in Tasmania, and now you're going back to places like Queenstown and the Northwest and Smithton and all those different places.
Yeah, indeed. And it's always been my home. I've been away a long time, as you say, but and I come back home a lot, breaks, holidays, but typically you're in a hurry and, you know, between home and the coast and Hobart and Launceston, and then you've got kids and families. And so to go back and to visit places, I haven't spent a lot of time. Huonville last night, haven't been there for a long time, but to, I guess, see the beauty of the place, the natural environment. It's really nourishing. To meet the people, to really feel firsthand the excitement, the enthusiasm around the Tasmania Devils. It's infectious. Selfishly, it's been great for me. It's been great for us. Learnt a lot, which is going to be really beneficial.
It's one of the great advantages of this club, and no other club in the AFL has this advantage, is that the Tassie Devils represent a state, and that's unique. And I suppose from your perspective, it's important to make sure that you embed roots in every part of the state and make sure everyone feels involved, and that extends beyond the state, with many people watching today, internationally or in different parts of Australia.
Yeah, 100%. It's a team like no other. We are different, we're truly unique. No other team can claim to represent a state. So it's a responsibility, but it's a huge opportunity. And for us to be competitive and successful, we need to embrace the whole state, and we need the state to embrace us. So we need to get around, we need to listen, to learn, we need to be involved in sport generally and football, clubs and associations. I really believe the great opportunity for us is to develop, and it'll take time, a whole of state football ecosystem. You've got the Tasmania Devils Football Club at the apex, hopefully competing, inspiring, creating interest and excitement and growth at ground level, and it's the strength, the vitality of the associations of the community clubs. They're going to provide a really strong foundation for us as well. So a sort of a whole estate, bottom up, top down football ecosystem is a really rich opportunity for our football club.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a few questions come in on Instagram, at the Tasmania Football Club Instagram. We're on the socials there, and Facebook as well, so you can contribute to the conversation as well as we go through wherever you're watching on whatever platform at the moment. But let's just start with this one. Greg Tulkarades has asked this question of you, given we're talking a bit about Tassie and being back. What's your favourite part of Tasmania?
Well, I would have to say my real home, I guess, which is the Northwest Coast. I was born in Elias in a dairy farming community, lived part of my childhood in Penguin and later Burnie, educated in Burnie. So I just think I love the coast. I love Burnie, for example. It's a coastal country town. Just the freedom, the access to sport, the support of the community. I mean, in Burnie, I can drive 10 minutes in any direction and be swimming, jumping in the river, in a temperate rainforest, or it's just the exposure to the natural environment and the freedom to get out and about is quite enriching. So I do love it. But I love, Huonville was beautiful last night, and I love Queenstown and Scottsdale. What a beautiful. Where do I stop? I love it all, mate.
Yeah, it is brilliant, isn't it? And when you get off the plane and you arrive in Tasmania and you just draw a breath for a moment, it's instantly relaxing.
And you do too. You've taken the opportunity to do a little fly fishing, St Patrick's River, and I mean that's a beautiful part of the world as well, isn't it? Up around there, the northeast.
So many special places here, and so many. When you live in a big city, as you've done in Melbourne for so long, so many opportunities just to have those restorative experiences, get into nature and breathe in that beautiful Tasmanian air. Finn McEwen asks, what's your favourite thing about being part of the Tassie Devils so far? You've only been in the role officially for 4 or 5 weeks now.
I think probably internally, I think the thing that is really resonating with me is there's really strong alignment between our board and our staff, our small staff so far, but we'll build that out, is there's a real understanding this is more than a football team. Don't get me wrong, we're football focused and we'll develop competitive teams and we'll never deviate from that, but there's an opportunity here to be much more than a football club and really help play a role, play our part in taking this state to another level. So that's internally, there's a real sense of alignment and there's strength in that. Externally, it's just the infectious enthusiasm wherever I go, whether it is Smithton or Scottsdale or as far south as Huonville. There's a real sense that we're ready. This is our time. It's taken a long time, but we're ready, and let's get on with it. Let's draw on the strength of 160 years of history and tradition, and let's get this thing going.
It's a great point, that, isn't it? When you look at more recent additions to the AFL, they've been very much start-up clubs. So they've gone into areas where they thought they could grow the game. Perhaps in some sense, Tasmania was its own worst enemy. We love football. We were rusted on the AFL, wanted to grow the business, and they went to markets like Gold Coast and GWS. But what those clubs didn't have that Tasmania can draw upon is that history. So how important is that fabric and everything that underpins this club going back to the very roots of the game? And Tassie was one of the states that helped build the game from the start.
Oh, look, I think it's crucial, Al. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big supporter of the Giants and Suns, and they're big markets. And we need to grow markets and grow customers and fans like any business. And so that made sense from an economic point of view. But it's important really here, that history and tradition, because our players, our administrators are going to be reminded every day that this really means a lot. It matters, and that will tend to concentrate the mind on getting the best out of ourselves individually and collectively. So it does matter, and it matters, I guess, more broadly because it does. Well, arguably it completes the picture. We're a foundation state of this federation. This is a football state, and it has been for 160 years. So it completes the AFL's credentials as being a truly national game. And I think that adds a lot of value to the whole AFL enterprise of itself.
So you had such a distinguished career, firstly as a footballer, 244 games. Half of Tasmania was inside North Hobart Oval, I'm told, the day that you were part of the team that beat Victoria in 1990. Talk about a Tasmanian team back then was pretty strong. It looked like it might happen way back in 1990. And then you have your 244 game career, you run up the AFL Players Association for a while after going into the law, and then embark on an administrative career at Richmond, which is like no other really. You turn that club from a club that was financially floundering to a behemoth again, over 100,000 members, 3 premierships in 4 years, and your record speaks for itself. So we're thrilled to have you. What was the appeal to come back and be part of building this new football club in Tasmania?
Well, initially it was just a chance to come home. As I've got older, there's that real longing. I love spending time back here. It fills my cup. As you say, Al, it's restorative. I never thought perhaps I'd come back and live here, let alone work here. But so there's a chance to come home. There's a chance to build a football club in my home. So that provides us with incredible meaning, and build a club from scratch, from a blank canvas. And that is challenging, but it's really, really exciting. And there's a lot of people who would love to be involved in that, in creating history and leaving a legacy. So, but probably thirdly, and perhaps almost most importantly, there's the opportunity to impact the state rather, from a not just a football point of view, but a cultural, from an economic, for a social point of view. I think, having a team comprised of teams of athletes competing in the biggest elite sporting competition of the state, committed to self-improvement every day, to being the best version of yourself every day, I think will radiate throughout the community. I think it will inspire our youth and manifest itself in a whole range of different ways. I think it'll be better for sport, clearly for football, for education, for health. I think it'll take Tasmania to another level. And as a proud Tasmanian, I think about the state a lot, and there's a lot to love and like about our state. But I'm confident we can be better. We can be better, and I think the club can play a transformative role in that. That really excites me too.
You've been away. Many of the people who are watching this discussion are living either on the mainland. Hopefully there are some in different parts of the world. We've got members in Uganda and Kenya and all sorts of places all around the world. It's phenomenal to think that this club has been able to establish 207,000 members and has not even kicked the ball yet. It's unbelievable, and I know it blew everyone's minds when those figures came through. Can you give a bit of a sense, now that you've been in Tassie for a while and you've been around the states, what's the mood in the communities that you're visiting around the establishment of this football team for men and women?
The mood is one of real excitement, and we've already seen the impact in junior participation in Auskick. So there's a real bubbling from below of excitement, enthusiasm, and then those kids are flooding into clubs. So there's that. There's that sense of we're ready to go. What's holding us back? There's a bit of a feeling, there's some sentiment out there that the AFL is perhaps driving a hard bargain. Are they asking too much of the state to step up to? It's actually the opposite. The AFL are actually setting us up for success, and stadium and trade administration, elite headquarters are a big part of that. So you get a chance to explain that, and people say, well, that makes sense. But I think there's just one of real enthusiasm, of pride. Clearly, how's it going to impact our community, our team? How's it going to benefit? How's it going to impact? And a great chance for us to explain, and a great chance for us to listen as well. So great positivity, great optimism.
Snapjack from WA has sent in a message. Good on you, Snapjack, and great to have you watching. If you've got a question, you can submit one. But he says, "Hey Brendon, huge footy fan from WA. Curious about what the talent pathway from Tasmanian grassroots to the AFL will look like once the Devils finally join, especially now that the TSL has been disbanded." Now, you've got a lot of work to do, but a lot of work to do quickly. Have you considered that at this point?
It's a really good question, and I guess the first part of that I've already responded to, and that is, we are stimulating the grassroots. Now, they're not available next year, but they're on their way. And nothing stimulates participation, involvement of the game, and even elite talent like the elite form of the game. So they're coming. They're a few years away. But look, there is a bit of work to do in that next level, that premier type league competition. We don't have one at the moment. And we need to provide a pathway quickly. We need the young lads and women who aren't drafted, first up, who want to continue to aspire to develop and grow and showcase their skills. We need to give them an opportunity to do so. At the moment, they're leaving the state to play in South Australia. We played Norwood Football Club on the weekend, our senior academy program, and I think there were 10 Tasmanians playing with Norwood. So we need to give them a reason to stay and develop and grow, and some of those might find their way on an AFL list. Not all, but we need to provide that pathway. And then once you do, you'll bring some players back more from interstate and WA and South Australia and Victoria. And then that'll be supported by, throughout 2017 where our list concessions will start to kick into play, and that'll be a range of measures. Clearly there'll be the draft in 27, but pre-listing 17-year-olds, a range of different levers to really complete the establishment of that list. But the pathways will look a lot different in 2 or 3 years' time than they do now, and it's critical we get to work.
This is more of a fun one than one I expect you to give perhaps a serious answer to, but official Sean Stevens asks, who's your ideal marquee recruit? So if I gave you, it's a shame Dusty's not in his prime still, isn't it? But if we gave you the selection of the entire AFL at the moment, not going to hold you to this of course, but what sort of player do you think would make a nice marquee player for the Tassie Devils?
Oh, I think just someone who is clearly talented but has exceptional character, because I think the character and the impression that character creates early on through a young group will endure. So someone of really strong leadership, goes about things the right way, wants to be here, wants to compete, wants to develop, and clearly has the talent to. I look at Callum Ward. There you go. Callum Ward, talented player, not a world beater, but goodness me, he was a great competitor and set a real strong example, which radiated through that Giants group, and they become they're a good footy team. They're a good club. So someone of that ilk. There you go. I'm not dodging the question. I don't know.
We'll take Cripper, Bontempelli, Toby Green, Jeremy Cameron.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll have the lot. Won't we?
They're too incredible. I love Bontempelli.
Nick Dacos will be reasonably young still, so I'll leave that to you, Brendon. Just one in terms of the building out of the club now, so that's a key role for you. There's actually a job being advertised on Seek at the moment, as I understand it, but slowly just a few more numbers are coming in the door. That's a key priority for you, and Paddy is asking about that. Paddy Taskunis has sent us a message. When do you plan to really build out the club's staffing profile?
Well, it begins now, Al, and we've had a board that's effectively ran this club and Kath McCann for 18 months, and it's been all hands on, and because there's been no other way. So right now our focus will turn to building out the workforce, the organisation. It'll probably start sort of some key football decisions looming, but we're in the market for a few jobs already, and but we need to. We can't do it all tomorrow, so we need to plan it out methodically, and we've got some other restraints like budgets and these sorts of things which inform some of those plans, but we need to invest for growth as well when the opportunity arises. We've just made a really key appointment, a woman by the name of Lauren Jauncey, who's a highly credentialed executive in and around people culture and people strategy. She's had roles overseas in Australia, and she was an exceptional athlete as well. So she happens to live here in Tasmania and Hobart, and she just started us Monday, so she's going to play a key role in driving that. She'll be a very important leader for us.
You're obviously a while away from appointing a senior coach, but am I right in saying that there has been a lot of interest from some very high calibre people, and that also extends to the sponsorship side of the football club as well? I'm not expecting you to reveal names or companies who are interested, but is that a fair comment?
Absolutely. I've had some really really interesting conversations and encouraging conversations at my kitchen table back at Melbourne, where I'm splitting my time, and with people you can't meet in public because they're household names and the speculation would start, but people of high capability and proven track records who would be interested in senior roles at this footy club. So that's really encouraging. I think these people are the sorts of people that have achieved a lot, and the history-making aspect of this and the opportunity to create and leave legacy is really attractive. And similarly with our commercial partners, we need to think through this strategically. We're not in market for a little time yet, but we think there's great value in being associated with us as we build this great story, this wonderful story that people are buying into all around the world. We think there's great value in that, and there's great value in being the first as well. So, yeah, we'll take our time in that, and really encouraged by the expressions of interest already.
One of the key things that's happening at the moment, I know that they're working feverishly in the offices here at Ninja Stadium, is the next membership offering, and Bryce 002 asks, what will member options look like in the future? Can you offer some information on that?
We come out to our first birthday since launch, and that's March 18, so we've got some really exciting plans, and that will coincide with our sort of membership renewal. And if you're a foundation member, you're always a foundation member, and there's 207,000 of those. So to the maximum extent possible, we want to retain those. So we're largely going back with the same offering as we did last year. There'll be some optional boxes to tick if you'd like to do a little more, and which would be appreciated. But we think right now it's important to hold that number and hold the volume, particularly where we don't have a lot of clarity around match day, stadia, seating arrangements. And as those arrangements become clearer, then next year we'll work into really to work in that membership base, having categories, driving yield, because we love the emotional strength and support we get from the membership. It gives us so much strength and encouragement, but it's an important source of revenue too. I mean, football clubs are big businesses, and there's some really big businesses in the AFL community that we need to try and keep up with. So we can't make any apologies for trying to build our business and grow revenue at the same time.
Infrastructure is a huge one, and it's obviously, in a political sense, the most challenging one in lots of ways. So you've got the high performance facility, or the training and administration facility to be built at the Kingston Twin Ovals, and then the Hobart Stadium work plans submitted for a redevelopment of York Park. That's going along nicely, and those plans look superb. What can you tell us about the different infrastructure projects that we've got going on?
Well, the training administration facility will be based at Kingborough. And those who aren't familiar with Kingborough, it's a community just south of Hobart. It's 12 minutes or so, which by Melbourne standards is not far at all. But it's an incredible little community. It's the Kingborough Council. It's a real growth area. And we've got the opportunity to really build a sort of elite sport hub precinct. It's where the Jack Jumpers will be relocating to. We'll be at the Twin Oval, so there's already existing infrastructure we can build upon and improve, and we'll have incredible purpose-built facilities for both men and women and our administration, and improvement for community type facilities and assets as well. So that's exciting, and a bit of work to get through, but we're close to the start line, and we have to get cracking because that really needs to be available by the end of 27. The stadium at Quarry Point gets all the attention. That is subject to a special parliamentary planning process that requires the support of both houses of parliament, and that'll run its course. I mean, pleasingly, there's broad political support, but Parliament, the expression of the will of the people, that'll be the ultimate arbiter, and so that'll run its course. The stadium is very important for football, but goodness me, it's so important for tourism and events and conventions and whole cricket throughout the calendar year, and clearly for the economy. And the thing that gets overlooked at times is UTAS Stadium, York Park in Launceston, which is an incredible asset. Hopefully a lot of you have visited over the years. The northern part of Tasmania is a thriving football community, thriving business community. Games are well supported. Hawthorn have been there for many years, and we'll be amping it up. And we're so excited because the stadium is subject to renovation too. In fact, the shovels on the ground, they're underway, and I've seen the plans or the vision for that stadium, and the supporter experience, the attendee, it's going to be so much better. So it's really exciting, and these are all transformative projects.
Why are they so important? So Macquarie Point Stadium's obviously the most topical and polarising. Why is it so important that the new stadium is built? Obviously, it's a requirement of the licence, so that's one thing. But You've lived it, you've seen it, stadium deals and how they affect the bottom line of football clubs. What does it mean for Tassie to have this stadium?
Well, if I put aside all the other benefits, which I've just mentioned, and focus solely on football, so it's a very narrow perspective, and I think I'm qualified to speak on that. As I said a number of times, we don't want to be a club that just makes up the numbers. We want to be a really competitive football club. And in the AFL industry, there was almost a perfect correlation between the clubs that have financial strength and the ability to invest in the resources in coaching and development and sports science and recruiting. So those who can invest in those sorts of things are going to be more successful, they're going to be more competitive, as opposed to those who don't. So that's a correlation, that's a fact. It's also a fact that the greatest driver of financial performance and of disparity between clubs are the relationships that you have with your stadium and the revenues you derive from your stadium. In a state like Tasmania, where we have some structural challenges around size and scale, and the size of the population, and maybe the depth and breadth of sort of wealth, as opposed to Sydney or Melbourne, these big markets, the stadium becomes even more critical. So basically, the stadium helps us compete to be successful, and if we're successful, we think we can inspire this state, and I think there's a whole range of positive outcomes for that as well. So that's why it's getting harder to attract people to live sport, Al, and you know that. It's, you're a broadcaster, people can sit home and TV with a glass of red wine in the middle of winter and with watch KO, watch Seven, watch you on a Friday night. It's easier not to go to the footy these days. So we've got to work really hard to provide the best supporter experience. We've got to follow their preferences and give them offers they can't refuse. We've seen stadiums transform the trajectory of football clubs like Port Adelaide, which, they were on their knees 10, 12 years ago. They had a stadium, a football park no one would go to. They had to cover it over with tarps. They've moved to Adelaide Oval. It's transformed that club, it's transformed that city, and it's transformed that state. And there's no good time to build a stadium. They're big, they're expensive. I get that, we all do. But there's significant investments in economic, social, cultural infrastructure, and almost without exception, they're investments that pay off in multiple ways, and that's why they're important.
I've covered Gather Round the last few seasons, and to see Adelaide thriving, people walking taller, being proud of where they come from, and just the volume of people who travel. You can't get a ticket, you can't get a flight. The flow on into business, it's extraordinary to see what happens, and I'm sure Macquarie Point will do the same thing. On that front, Andy Taylor has sent us a message, and you can do the same if you'd like to ask Brendon a question. What are the chances or the potential for us here in Tasmania to have a gather round in the early stages? Do you see that as a possibility?
I've been to South Australia, and the sporting football infrastructure we have here would rival Adelaide Oval. Adelaide the city. You look at, if there's a Macquarie Point, Blunston Arena. Ninja. Goodness, I can't keep up. Talking too much out. You've got UTAS Stadium. You've got North Hobart, which is bigger than Norwood Oval, which is their legendary oval on the parade. You've got Dial Park, which could handle AFL games in a novel sort of way. And it's incredible for that state. I would hate to think of the direct and indirect financial impact, let alone the psychological impact of the pride they have in their state for their ability to pull it off.
Scott has a question. This has been a bit of a common one that's popped up on both the socials and on the live stream here. We've got to have a good theme song, don't we? We're going to need a good theme song. So I know we're not quite necessarily at that stage, but there's interest, and you've been getting submissions left, right and centre, haven't you?
That's the last thing I thought of. Someone mentioned, I've got to come up with a theme song. I said, do I? We do.
Were you a musician back in the day?
I was a very poor one. Now, let's not go there. Let's change the subject. No, I'll leave that with Kath McCann. That'll be, I'll pass the buck. No, seriously, we have been inundated with some really interesting little versions and renditions, and really some folksy and call to arms type setup. So I think we need to put in place a really, really robust process and get some creative people around the table to even come up with a process of how we evaluate, what's going to work. And there's some. It matters. There's some really good ones. There's some not so good ones. The most recent one, the Giants one, is a ripper. It's an old Cossack sort of dance song.
Yeah, knee slapper.
I remember during the 2019 Grand Final, I couldn't stop sort of humming it. And we were playing them. It was just really caught on like wildfire that week.
Yeah. Here's one from Greg Torquerides. He asks, should the Tasmania Devils become my new team? I'm currently a Richmond fan. This will test you, Benny.
It's a little ethical dilemma, isn't it? Well, we can do both. We can walk and chew gum. Yes, you can. It's funny, I do get asked that question. Do you expect supporters of clubs to just switch over? And so surely they'll just follow the Devils straight away, particularly Tasmanians who have followed teams, Carlton or whatever, for years. I don't think some will. I don't think necessarily they will automatically, and we shouldn't assume that. I think we'll need to work really hard to sort of win their support and respect and trust. And if we do, I think that'll take care of itself.
I'll answer that. Absolutely, you should barrack for Tasmania. And I think everyone watching should barrack for Tasmania. And tell your friends, and if we've got 207,000 members now, let's try and even boost that further. Yep. If you go back to the launch of the Tasmania Devils Football Club, I think the projections were 40,000 members by October. The club launched in March, had 100,000 within 24 hours. So it is overwhelming how much support there is for this club. Has it struck you?
Well, yes, the number, just the sheer number has. But I've always felt that just the way the prospect of a Tasmania team has been reported in the past in Melbourne, there's always been great affection. It's always been regarded as a just cause. Like people say, well, why not? This doesn't seem fair. Why not? It's they're a proud football state and produce so much. And previously it has come down to economics. Really, it really has. Sydney, Queensland, big markets. Let's go there. But it's funny when those teams were established. If you speak to the rank and file footy supporter of Melbourne who supported a club and realised their club was going to the back of the queue in terms of draft picks and was going to be harder to climb up the top, I think there's a feeling of something being taken away from them, like something's been taken from the game. It's different this time around. You speak to the rank and file footy punter, it's like something's being added to the game. Yep. And it's about time. And so I think that sentiment on the mainland has really driven the membership numbers as well.
We had an exceptional night here on Friday night with the Tasmanian Football Hall of Fame dinner, and a couple of the absolute greats to have come from this state were there in attendance. Nick Finlay says the Hall of Fame dinner was fantastic. Brendon spoke. It was great to hear from Peter Hudson and Ian Stewart and their support for the club. How important is the support of those greats who've worn that map with distinction in the past and have blazed a trail that gives us a wonderful legacy in the game?
Yeah, look, it's really important because, Peter, Ian, they don't speak often, in their community as they might. I'm sure Peter's very present in the Hawthorn community, but he's a proud Tasmanian and always has been. So when they speak, people listen. Like Ian Stewart, we don't see that often. And when he speaks with great hope and belief, people listen. Because it's sincere, it's authentic, they're invested. It's really impressive. I think, without denigrating Ian or Peter, I think the most impressive speaker was Trevor Leo. Trevor was a revered figure who my parents revered in the 50s, 60s. He's played all over the state. He's a teacher. He was inducted as an icon in the Hall of Fame, and he's still pretty sharp. And he could be Prime Minister, Trevor Leo, I reckon. And just really enjoyed hearing from him and the way he spoke with great authority. It really matters. It does.
Yeah. Social impacts of this club are enormous, and I think people perhaps viewing the forum here might not be aware of a bit of work the club's done already. Haven't kicked the football, but working with TAFE Tasmania, the Tasmania Academy of Leadership and Sport, is offering opportunities to 56 We've had 56 enrolments this year, the first year it's ever been offered. Collaboration between the Devils, the Jack Jumpers, the Hurricanes and Cricket Tas as well as Netball Tasmania to give a pathway into coaching, administration, all the different facets that's involved in running a sporting club. And those positions are now available to these young people at the end here in Tasmania.
Yeah.
So why did the club feel compelled to do that? And what's your experience living that on the mainland and seeing it?
Well, we were compelled to do it through self-interest, Al. And at the end of the day, you know, like, once again, maybe a lot of people we don't know, but we're going to employ 100, 120 people. So we're going to need to fill those positions. Now, some of those positions will be filled by people from Melbourne and Sydney that are experienced in football administration or coaching and the like. But there's a lot of roles in events and marketing and finance and, you know, commercial ops and event management that make up a footy club. And so we created this academy, you know, TALS, with those 4 sports to provide education with TAFE, proper dual diploma, accredited education, in around sports administration and management. Rather than sitting in a classroom in the middle of the city, they're on site here at Ninja Stadium, and at various stages they'll fulfil practical aspects of their course by being immersed in sport business with the Devils, with the Hurricanes, with the Jack Jumpers. And when they finish, there will be jobs and pathways for them to go into. So it's just, and that's 56 this year, and there might be more next year. In fact, there will be more, and we'll be rolling out to the whole state. So there's a big sports business ecosystem that is growing because of the professionalisation of sport. And we need to fill those with jobs. So earn income, pay tax, contribute to their community, buy services, health. It's just a flow on. So, and mark my words, these young participants, students this year, in 6-8 years' time, there'll be people in senior positions in our organisation, really influencing the direction of our club and leading. I know that because we ran a similar program at my previous club. It's been going for 9 years, and there are senior people at our football club with really important roles doing this now. It's been one of the proudest achievements of my time, the establishment of this sort of enterprise within a footy club, because that's what footy clubs do.
Yeah, it's a fantastic thing and a huge opportunity for young people who might otherwise have had to leave, like the footballer leaves.
They did. They had to leave the state.
Yeah, and many of you watching might have been in that position at some point in your life as well, but it's great to get people of your calibre back. Just a couple of quick ones to finish. We've been doing community forums all across Tasmania. A couple of questions. Andreas asks, any Melbourne-based events for supporters on the mainland? And even one of our messages, Twiskers, asks, any chance of a Phillip Island meet and greet? So we've even got specifics around location, Benny. I'm up for a road trip if you are.
Well, Al, if they could, what was his name again? Philly.
So the
Twiskers.
Twiskers, yes.
If Twiskers could organise it so it's about 4 foot, 5 foot offshore at Willamite, I'll be there for sure. I'll be there. Great surf for Phillip Island.
Yeah.
A little bit sharky though, Twiskers. So no, look, seriously, we will. In short, this sort of trip coincides with my first month of the job, so it's been really important to get around to the state. But clearly, there's a lot of Tasmanians. And not just Tasmanians, people that are interested in Tasmania and the mainland, around Sydney and Melbourne, and we sort of work out how we're going to reach out and engage them and get them involved in supporting the club. We'll put a bit more thought into that and get those waves rolling, Twiskers. And down there.
Stay tuned. Thank you all for being part of it today. I hope you found it informative. It's great to have Brendon on board. He's getting his feet under the desk. There's a lot of work to do, but a lot of very good work's already been done. There'll be plenty of announcements coming your way. Stay connected to the Footy Club on the social media platforms. Make sure you check your inbox for the members updates as well. Some huge announcements coming in the next few weeks around the next membership offering as well. So tell your friends and family, make sure you sign up again. It's exciting where the club is headed. And thanks to all of you who've participated today, jumped online for a chat, and for those who've posed some questions of Brendon as well. So stay tuned for more information on the club, get those memberships, and onwards and upwards. Thanks for your afternoon.